time off to just recharge myself and to slow down after what seemed like a very successful yet challenging fiscal year. We follow the July to June cycle. And last week when I took that time to pause and reflect and really think about how the past year really went, even though we came out successful, it was nothing short of a roller coaster. And I think that was the best time that I finally started reading this book called A Beautiful Constraint that was gifted to me by my colleague. The authors in this book really talk about how do we as humans have our response to constraints. Do we see constraints as beautiful? We can only see constraints as beautiful if we actually think about them more like opportunities to raise the bar of our ambition. Use constraints in a way that we can really think about doing ways differently. And what really struck me was the three mindsets or the three stages that we encounter when we are faced with constraints. And think about it this way, I'm sure each of you have lofty goals and ambitions within the organizations. But I think what happens when, on one hand, you have a big target to achieve, the other hand, you also get a memo from the CFO saying the budgets are going to be cut. Do we get into a victim mindset or a victim mode? The victim mode in this context means that we look at that constraint as limiting in a way that then we lower the bar of our ambition, that no sir, this is not, or ma'am, this is not going to be possible. I'm not going to be able to achieve these numbers because the budgets are cut. Or do we move into a neutralizer mindset, which essentially is more about, okay, finding our way around or a workaround to be able to achieve our ambition and goal. We'll still reach there, but just about. Like we all, I think, are very good at it. You can also think about workaround and jugaad as well, right? But the really, the best way to actually look at this is the transformer's mindset. And what does a transformer mindset do to us? That is a time where we not only look at that particular constraint as a constraint, but we make it beautiful by looking at various ways and making it a stimulus to get us to be more innovative and raise the bar of our ambition. And the reason I'm actually talking about this is that the reality is that the world in which we live today is ever changing, is in motion, we are sitting at a nexus of abundance of possibilities on one side and also a large amount of scarcity on the other. So how do we make sure that we are constantly working with a transformer's mindset, not just to be able to navigate through this world? In fact, there are 4 key forces of change that we're seeing that are impacting the world of work and the world overall around us. So I'd like to share a little more on that when we look at these 4 different major aspects that really make that difference. So let's talk about economic forces. What's happening in the world today? 10 years ago, the way we saw the world was very different. Globalization was on the rise, trade was at its peak, countries were really, they seemed more like working with each other and felt like one global connected planet, right? But today we are living in a world where there's so much of macro volatility, banks are collapsing, there is geopolitical tension, and all of this is in a way impacting the way we look at business and we look at work, as well as how the workforce is impacted. Talk about generational workforce. Gen Z today is not just one of our most diverse workforces, but in fact, it's estimated by the end of this decade, they'll form a third of the workforce. And what Gen Z seeks, they look for flexibility. They're looking for diversity and sustainability in their workplaces. They're looking for skilling and growth opportunities in their careers. They're looking for an organization that's transparent, that's authentic. They're looking at organizations that do not just think about profit, but think about larger purpose and impact, right? So it's all about the employer-employee relationship and understanding that is also majorly changing and it's evolving already. The other one is, of course, technological forces. We all have been seeing the seismic shift and the change that we've been seeing, rise of AI. Well, rise of AI is not new. The question is also not new that will AI impact or change things. But yes, what has really taken center stage is right from the time generative AI came into our hands as everyday use of AI, we know for sure that this is going to really change and impact almost everything and every job, every task, every work that we do. And this is really a very pivotal moment in the way the workforce, where we are work and business, and overall we're moving. And then, of course, the fourth most important aspect, which is of green transition. Well, the future of our work is directly linked with the future of our planet. And countries across the globe are having aggressive targets, reaching net zero by 2050. Governments, organizations, everyone's coming together to really look at how do we adapt and change and really speed up our energies, speed up our efforts towards getting towards a sustainable future, right? And all of this is, in fact, very well put together with this World Economic Forum report that came out in May, along with LinkedIn data, that actually talks about 69 million jobs will be created in the next 5 years because of these green transition and new technologies. And then at the same time, 83 million new jobs will be put at risk because of economic tensions as well as, again, automation. All in all, 1/4 of today's jobs will be disrupted in the next 5 years. And that's where this is incumbent upon us as governments, businesses, and the entire ecosystem to come together and really kind of take action. But I want us to pause, and I want to bring back the Transformers mindset here for a moment, because in the middle of all of this, the why, what we do doesn't change, but it's the how. The how is important for us to really think about at this moment. How are we thinking about this growth or navigating this, through this, the world of work that we are in a way where we are also thinking about driving not just towards an efficient workforce, but an equitable workforce? How are we together as an ecosystem thinking about not leaving people behind? How do we as India think about our demographic dividend? And we have crores of students getting into the workforce, but how many of them are employable? How do we make sure that we are really giving them those opportunities? And we all know that skills is one of the key answers to bridge people with the right opportunities, right? We heard such an inspiring talk by General Bikram Singh. How do we think about our army veterans also coming back into the workforce? How do we think about people? So the how is something that really matters. And in this world of change, if there is one thing that is constant, it's the skills evolution. I want to spend a few slides just to show you some data around the skills shift that we've seen. And since 2015 till now, what we've seen is globally, skills have shifted, even for the same roles, by about 25%. And for India, it's about 29%. But this is expected to go up and change by about 48% just around the corner by 2025. What that means is that the jobs, your and my jobs, whatever we do every day, more than half of the skills required to be successful in the current jobs. So our jobs are changing even when we are not changing our jobs, right? So that is something that is significant. The other thing, let me take that as an example with an industry. So if I look at technology, information, and media, skills shift over there is about 32.5%. But if we look at that with a specific role, and let's pick a role of solutions architect, since 2015 till now, the skills shift for this role already is about close to 50% as of today. And this is slated to, in fact, of course, the pace at which things are changing will continue to evolve, right? The good news, however, is that while work is changing, workers are adapting. We're seeing that everyone is rising to the occasion. The fact that we have this room full, everyone's investing their time here is because all of you as organization and as leaders are already kind of making that shift, and so are all employees. Because if I take this example of how learners have adopted to looking at learning courses on generative AI, in just a short span of time, you see that there is almost a 5x growth in the number of hours spent on generative AI content on LinkedIn Learning. Especially you see the peak after ChatGPT hit the scene, right? And this is something which is extremely, in a way, that's a good thing. Yeah, the telling fact here I wanted to also point out is it's not just the number of hours or the number of learners that have increased, but our data show that 37% of learners on Gen AI were actually non-tech and non-acads, which means that all other functions and roles. So if you may think that it's only the people who are in tech roles are doing these courses, 37% were actually from product, sales, HR, operations, finance, and that really goes to show how we're seeing that adoption happen. And it's no surprise, because the other thing that we see that what employees value today, as per one of our Global Talent Trends report, is that for them, apart from compensation, what is very important is what are the career advancement opportunities within the organization that I get, so about 49%, and the other thing is upskilling opportunities. So what are the opportunities that as an employee I get to upskill? One is self-directed, the other is how is my organization making that difference? And coming to organizations, the other thing that we've been seeing is that India is leading the way as far as using a skills-first approach to hiring. In India, we're seeing 50% plus recruiters on LinkedIn, in fact, use skills data to hire. And what does that really mean? What does skills or a skills first? You all know, I just wanted to reinforce some of these things. A skills first approach is really where we are not just moving to solve for the constraint of limited talent pools, but we are also using this as an opportunity to expand our talent pools with looking at people who are without probably specific college degrees, or maybe looking at people who have probably do not have the same job title that you're hiring for, but they have the skills to display. You are actually looking at more potential over pedigree. And our data shows that when we look at a skills-first approach, in India, the talent pool increases by 12x. And talking about diversity, especially gender diversity, if you use a skills-first approach, it actually increases by 29% more for women than for men as well. So there is, of course, that's something. And then moving on to also a quick stat I wanted to share around, we spoke about green skills. The interest around sustainability. Just like what we saw around generative AI, right? On sustainability as well, we're seeing learners really invest a lot of time in upping their green skills quotient. So about 5.6x more. However, while that is happening at a rapid pace, I must also tell you that that's not enough, because demand for green skills is outpacing the supply across different countries. And one of the things that we've been seeing is that when we talk about where is the demand coming from various industries. So it's not just about the greening industries, but in fact, if you see this particular chart, it talks about where is the share of green talent in India and what is the year-on-year growth. So what you see on the right is more than 50% is farming, forestry, of course, which you expect that the share of green talent is there. Percentage growth, however, I think what is good to see is 49% is in construction. The other sectors, oil and gas, manufacturing, retail, real estate, is really again showing very aggressive growth in terms of adding green skills. And I'm sure in the next few years we will be seeing the ones which are slightly behind on percentage of green skills, which is financial services, entertainment providers, all of this will move. And I want to, while I bring this to a close, what I want to just remind all of us is that this time is our unique opportunity to not just solve for and grow our business, which is of course doing well, yes, that is important, that's why we all have goals. but it's also our opportunity to do good for the planet, for our people, for making sure that we do not leave people behind as we grow in the midst of all these constraints. And I'd like to leave you with a beautiful story of a young girl called Harshita. Harshita is someone who came from a small town in Maharashtra, daughter of a daily wager, just had access to municipal school education, but very bright, very enthusiastic, and really had a lot of dreams that she wants to do something more. Thanks to a social impact organization called Fuel, she had an opportunity to get skilled, get access to great communication skills as well as STEM skills. In fact, Fuel is, the person you see on the right is Ketan Deshpande, the founder of Fuel. Fuel is LinkedIn's social impact partner, and where we have an opportunity to give access to LinkedIn Learning to all the students and the beneficiaries. So what we've seen is that with that, we've seen how Harshita has not just been able to upskill herself, but she's also landed an internship with HCL, and as of today, she's a full-time employee with HCL. Now, this is a story. This is a story of how the entire ecosystem comes together to really make a difference. We're not just expanding the talent pool, we're not just expanding and reaching out to more people, but we are also uplifting and bringing, just so much. If it's one Harshita, it's not just she who's got a good life, but it's her entire family, the inspiration and a relatable role model that she's become in her small village and town as well. And that is something that I find so inspiring, and I'd leave all of you with this thought again, that this is our unique opportunity in the middle of all these constraints to do well and to do good. Thank you.